Welcome to the channel and welcome to this video. We are Beefy Boys Breakdown. We recap every single fight on every single card every single week. And man, yeah, last night was a busy night in the combat sports world. We had UFC, we had Bellator, and you rarely hear boxing get talked about on this show, but Garcia versus Davis was like a legit fight. Like it was I don't know. We might spend a little bit of time on it. We'll see how our pacing is going, but big night in combat sports world last night.
Yeah, I mean, as far as that boxing fight goes, just to touch on it, legitimately, the one thing boxing never does is make the right fight in the prime of guys' careers. This is one of those fights that we rarely ever get to see made. So, I mean, yeah, definitely watched it. Glad I didn't pay for it because my takes are tinfoil hat as hell on it.
Yeah, there was some smell test issues going on with the stoppage, the whole situation. Yeah, we're gonna have to spend a little time on it, but man, jerking the cut, and then of course there was the great. I don't know if you saw the highlight, that patchy mix.
Yeah,
Bellator knee KO.
Rafion Stotts or Rafion Stotts, however you say his name.
Yeah,
Brutal knee
for the belt too. Yeah, for the belt and a milli on the knee. It was pretty sick. I mean,
yeah.
The thing is, how many people were honestly watching Bellator on a night like last night? Like, not trying to be a dick, but I mean,
Almost no one. And playoff NBA and playoff NHL.
Yeah, you're right. Like the sports fans' attention was being pulled in a lot of ways. Granted, the clip went viral as fuck. Like even like right after the Davis Garcia fight, all my Twitter feed. Granted, my algorithm favors MMA, so I know it's not like a total coincidence or a total indicator. But like my entire feed was just patchy mix highlights. Like literally to an annoying level where it was like, all right, I've seen it. I'm trying to like scroll Twitter, but it's just like the same patchy mix highlights. So I mean, it definitely had its viral moment, so that's cool. But man, we got some prelims to get to here.
Yes,
honestly, some pretty gas prelims. Honestly, pretty gas fight night card all the way around the block. Like this was an Apex card, but I felt like they could have sold some tickets on that. Am I not seeing the forest of the trees? Like, do most people not give a shit about Pavlovich Blaydes? Like,
I'll give you this. It's weird that like with heavyweights, typically we see them be billed always near the end of the card, even when they're unranked. If they are ranked in the top 5, it's essentially a main event, no matter what, unless it is like the home. Well, I mean, unless it's for a belt.
Well, and we got
as far as belts go,
Almeida coming up in like 2 weeks, and
yeah.
this blows that out of the water. I mean, I that's not selling tickets anyway, so I guess it's kind of a moot point. But like, I don't know. I thought that this could have been a possible arena show. Like, I get it, maybe not like a 20,000 seat arena, but there's some smaller ones that they do. But
you know what I think,
either way, I thought it was a good fight night card.
I think Pavlovich doesn't really have a big draw power, and I think some of that is political, and I think some of that is just him not speaking English at all. But I like him, and also just talking about his frame, he's 6'4" and has a 7-foot wingspan. I also noticed, bro, think about how far your elbows go down in your body, right, when you're standing. Okay, his go down to his belly button / slightly below it. So imagine, like, mine don't go even close.
No, he's like, I think it's safe to say that you can, like, if you want to use the word like genetic freak when referring to Pavlovich, I mean, I think that's totally like in bounds. Like that guy is quite literally built different. Like
I would say prototype D end if he was going to play football. Like would have the craziest.
Yeah, some JJ Watt. Type similar build, like honestly, yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. But before we get to that, I do want to give some shine to my bets, which we'll cover as we go. Didn't miss
Harrison crushed. Harrison crushed. We may have to go back to betting at the goddamn Silver Legacy.
And all dogs are pick'ems. Didn't pick a favorite.
Yeah, no, Harrison was on fire at the book. I should have rode with my boy. What can I say? Big regrets over here. I thought I was trying to be the smartest guy in the room and ate a bag of dicks. Actually, no, I broke even. So, I mean, I didn't really eat a bag of dicks. But
sounds like we took the casino's money.
It did. And, like, I got to say, leave a comment out there. I want to know if I'm the only weirdo that gets, like, decently bad anxiety. Like, real talk. Like, I'm not even trying to
watching fights?
Like, no. Placing the fucking bets in person. Like, I'm a big, like, kiosk guy. Anybody that's, like, doesn't place bets on their phone that actually goes to the casino, you know what I'm talking about, my fellow Nevadans. There's a little kiosk. There's like a touch screen where you kind of take your time, build your parlays, play with different results, see what value you're going to get. And it's just like a no pressure environment unless there's some drunk guy behind you yelling to hurry up, then you can just tell him to fuck off. But placing the bets at the actual counter with an actual human with the stupid little golf pencils and shit I hate that experience so much. And all the kiosks were down. And like I ended up like not being able to like really craft my parlays the way I wanted to. And it was just I felt like rushed and anxious. So like leave a comment below. People that have placed bets at the actual window with the human, at the kiosk versus like through some mobile app. Give me your preferred way to place your bets, and because I can't be the only one that like I literally gave me such bad anxiety. It was so dumb. Like it was no reason. Lady was super sweet. I just
Yeah,
I just hate
the
that shit.
last time I cashed in person and we talked to the guy about it, whenever I was out there with you for International Fight Week last week or last year, super cool. And like they don't really know the most about MMA. It seems like at the actual counter for the book, like they're used to all the other sports getting bet, like baseball, football. So it seems like they're always intrigued, like about the bets. It seems like for me at least.
Yeah, like I've built up a reputation at a couple casinos, not because I bet so much money, but just because I consistently bet MMA, and there's not
You're
that
the
many
MMA
people
guy.
that do. Yeah, yeah, and so that's cool. Also, fucking learn there's like I think May 20th. There's some King of the Cage fights coming to Silver Legacy.
Let's
Definitely gonna
go.
try to hit that up. That'll be dope. But
You
man, we
also
beat.
just so you know, Reno hosts one of the best high school wrestling tournaments on the planet every year.
Oh yeah, I know those motherfuckers have been at my work, fucking eating all the pizza. But yeah, no, that big. Reno's a big like convention city. This week there's like the same thing for volleyball, like girls volleyball, like the biggest
Yeah,
tournament,
there's
and like the
my
bowling national championship, like literally all that type of shit. Reno's that type of city for sure.
yeah, Allie's doctors, one of their daughters is on a traveling like team, and she's going to Reno for it. So, all right, yeah, already knew. I was saying we should go with them sometime, but yeah, this first fight, man, we could jump into it. I did have money on this. Brady Highstand versus Dana Botjari. Now, I will say, all my bets, maybe they're underdogs. No one's plus 200. I never got that much value,
No,
right?
that was the theme of this whole card was like close money lines and like pick'ems. Like, oh, I forgot MMA bets or something, MMA fighting. One of these Twitter accounts that I follow, they put out a tweet before the card started, like, what are the locks for this card? And I'm really right, but I usually try to engage with those type of posts and see what other people are talking about. Like, when I really started thinking of locks, I was like, my response was like, no locks. There's no locks, but there is value. Like, so you can take your pick. You're not going to get a lock with value. That's not how sports betting works. So I was like, not really any locks I'm trying to stick my chest out on, but value, sure.
Yeah, well, and I feel like the theme of my bets was honestly like a lot of luck sprinkled over a lot of my picks.
Yeah, we'll get to it, man. We got Brady Highstand jerking the curtain here, 23-year-old prospect, plus 125 dog. Like you said, taking on Bajero, Dana, whatever order you want to put the Mongolian name, leave it up to you. But minus 145 favorite. Bantamweight banger on our hands. So, I mean, this fight, honestly, how this fight doesn't get a bonus is like kind of wild to me and kind of fugazi. Like, this is like, I mean, whether you want to get fight of the night,
I think
performance of
fight
the
of the
night,
night, right?
it's hard for me to not see how or why. Or that's really one of the only ones I disagreed with. But yeah, I mean, this fight was a banger straight out of the gates. You know, Denal straight up wobbled a high stand, like, and there was a clinch knee to the head. He was just like essentially beating the shit out of high stand in round one. Now, at the end of round one, and Denal was stuffing takedowns, which high stand known as kind of a wrestler, so obviously big path to victory there for the strikers, being able to keep it on the feet. And so Denal, I mean, things couldn't really have not have gone much better for Denal in round one. The only thing that kept it from being at a 10-8 was at the end of the round, Highstand started to land some shots.
Yeah.
Like he started to fire back, and really they kind of had an old school like slugfest, if you will, like the last like 30 seconds of the round where there's really no defense, all gas, no breaks, and both guys were clipping each other's chin, but that include Highstand clipping Denal's chin and really kept it from being a 10-8. I think without that final sequence, it was probably on its way to being a 10-8.
Right. It's almost like when you look at the difference between 5-1 and then like 11-6, or I'm sorry, 10-6, right? Like 10-6 feels like a lot better than 5-1 does, if that makes sense. But it's still 4 differential. So like, to your point, like he scored a lot of points at the end. And also, I thought Highstand did a good job with the kicks early, like very early, the first minute. He was landing some
Yeah,
good body kicks and
he was. Even like
threatening.
high kicks
Yeah,
too.
threatening with the high kicks. Sorry about that. Need my table. Now that being said, clearly a 10-9 to Bajuri, and I think that round 2, I mean, pretty much is a continuation of round 1, right? Because they just come out and start banging, and Highstand immediately gets knocked down.
There's a couple of fights like this on this card where like rounds 1 and 2 were like copy paste, rinse, repeat. They were like they
Yeah.
took place the exact same way. Like the Semmelsberger fight comes to mind, but yeah, I mean there was another knockdown at the start of round 2. The only difference is the ground and pound elbows, like following up. He followed him to the ground much better, was able to get on top and drop some pretty significant elbows. A lot of damage. Highstand was leaking all over the place. However, once again, Highstand able to like recover pretty much, and towards the end of the round ends up taking Denaz back. I thought he could have and should have gone for a choke.
Yeah, kept trying to threaten
weird.
the knee bar, but he got too high on the back. You know, it was almost like he lost position, but he recovered so well. Like his recovery with the hooks was crazy.
Chin was kind of like up in the air. Like I felt like, I mean, I'm no expert, right? Like somebody commented, you know, you're some high level black belt, and I'm seeing it wrong. But looked to me like Denal's chin was up in the air, and Highstand was on the back. It was weird. It wasn't like he was going for the sub and like Denal's defense was preventing it. Like he almost kind of didn't go for it, which granted, after you've gotten almost finished like twice in like 9 minutes, like I get it, riding out of position, recovering, like you definitely like playing a little safe. Like I'm not saying it was the worst move in the world, but I just thought that like maybe there was an opening there. But regardless, much similar to round 1, pretty much kind of saved the 10-8, right? Like got that, that extra point back. Like 10-9 Dana, but you know, like probably would have been a 10-8 if he didn't get his back took. Like this, he's potentially up like 2016 going into the third, but like a few grappling sequences like separating that.
Yeah, damn near 2016. I would say that Highstand was just too high up. So when he did go for that choke, he ended up losing position and getting reversed. And ended up on his back to end round 2. So visually, it was just enough for a 10-9 both times, right? Because like start of the round was bad in round 2, end of the round was not good. He just had that nice little middle. In round 1, he had the nice end and the nice start, but a terrible middle. So kind of inverted on when he performed well there. But it seemed like he was dangerous the whole time throughout the fight if he could get to the grappling sequences with Dana. Dana was clearly better on the feet, I thought. And so going into round 3, I had it 2018, but I knew Highstand was going to be dangerous. And as a guy that bet on Highstand, I was praying.
Yeah, you know, like it did seem to be kind of slowing down. Highstand, you know, he's a young prospect, you know, and I think nobody's really questioning the talent or, you know, the potential, but like these young guys, like what are they going to look like when it gets into fucking like Darren Elkins territory? You know what I mean? It's like not all these young prospects have that in them.
Oh, Highstand's a dog. He's a dog.
Absolute dog. Babyface dog for sure. Little puppy dog.
Little puppy dog.
Yeah, for sure. But man, I mean, Highstand. The thing about round 3, you know, it ends up, you know, people are going to think about the double leg takedown and the ground and pound and the grappling. But what I don't want to get lost in all this narrative is Highstand was winning round 3 on the feet before it even got to the mat. It was crazy. It was like this kind of a cliche and like kind of like generic coaching. Like every fighter tells like, all right, forget those first 2 rounds happen. Let's go out here and get a finish in the third. Everybody says that, but like, how many people actually can implement that? Like, if you were just watching, if round 3 was all you'd watched, blood and damage aside, like mentality and game plan and approach, you would have no idea that Highstand had gotten tuned the fuck up.
Well, you know, it's a weird like common phrase in sports for like teams that start hot and finish slow, like they blow their load, or even like wrestlers or any kind of sport, right? Is like weather the storm, right? Like if you can hang with them through their like their onslaught, almost like the Warriors. Like if you can hang with them whenever they're bombing threes, you're gonna come back if you just keep playing consistent, right? Well, like funny enough, Dana's name is the Storm, and awesomely enough, Highstand weathered the shit out of the storm and beat him for the first 3 minutes on the feet, wore him down, and for the last 2 minutes, they had like that 30 seconds kind of on the feet, and then he gets the takedown, pins him on the cage, and just essentially traps his hips in one arm and just beats the shit out of him for 40 seconds to win the fight.
Yeah, Denal looked toast.
I mean, he was just
once they got to the mat, there wasn't a lot of resistance. Like,
No.
I think, like, Denal was like, well, I've hit you with my best shot. Like, yeah, you're still here. My gas tank is dwindling. Because if Denal survives the round, he wins the fight.
I know. And it's a good thing Highstand kept working for the takedown, and Denal kept posting his hands and stopping the takedown. And I think if he lets him get the takedown, I don't know that Highstand finishes him just on the top. I think having him pressed on the cage where he had like the shoulder press where he couldn't get his arm up and away, and he was stepped through his hips, almost like scissored through them, right? So he couldn't stand up or turn in or away. So it was almost like he got stuck.
Yeah, and he ends up getting the ground and pound finish. Like I said, just kind of nothing too vicious, just a bunch of unanswered, undefended shots landed on Denal clean. And yeah, I mean, fantastic comeback win for Highstand. At first, like, I went from being like R.I.P. Harrison's money line straight to like, holy fuck, my guy cashed. I mean, such an entertaining fight. Like I said, in my opinion, fight of the night or performance of the night. This was bonus worthy. Hopefully, there was a little Dana Duffel waiting for both of these fellas back there.
Yeah, I would definitely hope so. At least Highstand, like, my God.
Yeah, that comeback was unreal. And I mean, Highstand has, I mean, stand up. I mean, he's no Anderson Silva, right? But like, it's decent. It's decent.
It works.
And the wrestling, above average. The cardio, fan-fucking-tastic. The chin, the heart, I mean, through the roof. I mean, the guy's got some tools. I mean, it's bantamweight, so of course, interesting prospect. But Jesus, I mean, the guy, there's a lot to like there.
I think with Highstand, what I see is like a super high floor, and I don't know about the ceiling. I don't know that his ceiling is super high, but his floor is there. Like, he has UFC quality skills, if not at least intangible skills, right? Like toughness, cardio, heart.
And at 23, I mean, this is like best case scenario, right? Like let's have a little fun here. Like, this isn't a prediction. This is just like, we're talking about ceiling having some question marks, floor being high. Like, best case scenario, like if everything goes his way, right? I mean, some Marab-esque qualities to him between the cardio and the chin. I mean, not quite the wrestling, right? But just some similarities there. That's all. So I'm not saying they're the same guy or he's as good, but I mean, the potential to grow into a Marab-esque type of fighter. Because Marab's no Anderson Silva himself. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, but Marab is just so relentless on the hips.
So tenacious. But there's a little bit of that in there. I mean, like I said, not a prediction, just having a little fun. Best case scenario here. But also, like you said, high floor, like worst case scenario, he's going to be one of these guys that it's like, well, tough night out, you know? Like, you drew Highstand, like, good luck getting him out of there, and I hope your cardio's in point. You know what I mean? Like that's what worst case scenario. So I don't know.
Absolutely right. And at 23, like you said, like a lot of time for his skills to progress. And as those progress, he has the intangible skill set to already maintain where he's at. So he could have a rise, you know, and at least be a guy that has a job for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And then one quick little, I mean, he called out C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez, the guy who beat Raul Rosas Jr.
I like the call-out.
I like the call-out. I like the level of the call-out. I like that that's like not an obvious call-out, but it shows he's paying attention to the division. Because, like, in his head, he probably wants to call out Raul Rosas. But then, like, a couple weeks ago when this guy beat Rosas, he's like, well, if he beat Rosas and I beat him, like, maybe I can parlay that into something. I like the way he's, like, thinking about his career. Like I said, because C-Rod, it's not like it's in and of itself as a big name call out, which means it's like achievable. Like he could very easily get matched up with C-Rod.
Fight. They fought close at the same time, and I think that like stylistically, why wouldn't C-Rod accept the fight? Right? Like he just did the same thing to Rosas Jr. It's almost the same style of fight against a guy that maybe is just arguably better.
Yeah, I'll take Highstand striking over Rosas striking like all day, every day, twice on Tuesdays, but. Point taken.
8 times a week, baby.
We can keep it pushing here. We got Francis Fire Marshall, another prospect, this time in the featherweight division, taking on William Gomez, plus 165. Marshall minus 195, and Gomez tall French striker, 6 foot tall. Francis a little bit shorter, undefeated though at only 7-0, and this is a prime example of this has been a hot topic on the podcast and kind of the MMA lexicon, man. Like, does the UFC need this many 7-0 guys, 6-0 guys? There's a guy later on this card that's 4-0. Like, when we talked about making the Dana White Contender Series almost like an NBA G League, you know what I mean? Or like an MLB minor league, like have it, it's affiliated, right? Like it's affiliated. It's not like you're fighting in LFA. Like maybe like let's still pay these guys, but like I've gotten to the point now where like saying undefeated about a 6-0, 7-0 guy, like it almost feels cheap. Like it almost feels like a play on words. Like I don't know. I'm no. This sounds like I'm hating on Francis Marshall. I actually like Francis Marshall. It's more lens zoomed out, bigger picture. How many of these guys do we need? There's so many 7-0 Dana White Contender Series guys and girls on the roster. It's just like I don't know. I never know how to like juxtapose. Like neither one of us bet this fight because it's like, what do you do with that information?
See, to me, this was definitely a no bet because I didn't know what to really expect from either guy. Other than I knew that Marshall was going to like push a grappling pace and that Gomez was going to have great movement and strike on the outside, right? Now, as far as like who I thought was going to win the battle of who got their fight style off, no idea, right? So no bet for me. I mean, shout out to Michael. He took Gomez. I'm not quite sure what inspired him on it. Probably the movement because he knew that it would probably frustrate Marshall's ability to try and grapple.
Oh yeah, and man, when I like Gomez, this is a rare compliment. I don't hand this compliment out that because not that many guys have this kind of skill set. But like, I don't know if I've ever seen somebody be lighter on their feet. And mind you, we're talking about featherweights; they're all pretty light on their feet. But like, he fucking just floats and bounces, and he's like one of the what do they call that? A jitterbug, the ones that land on top of the water.
Yeah,
They're just so light footed. Like, it's like just it's almost like he's floating because he's always bouncing and just gliding and sliding and he moves very different and he trains at the same gym as Cyril Gahn, who obviously at heavyweight it looks slightly different when Cyril Gahn does it, just the science that's behind it, the weight and the girth, but like you see that movement style and man, I don't think they do everything right at that gym out there in France, but goddamn, do they get that footwork part of it?
Footwork and striking, they are great at teaching. There's one thing I want to note that's like an interesting stat to say out loud, and then to note that this is a split decision, right? Like this is what I think is an interesting to like have those two ideas held next to each other is that Francis Marshall at one point in the third round had landed 10 out of 134 strikes.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. This is that fight with that narrative. I can't wait to get with it because just broad stroke real quick and we'll go round by round. But like, I'm not saying these stats weren't true. They were, right? Like I trust the technology, but like, this is almost a fight that I wanted to mute because in round two, I feel like it was almost influencing me. Like what I was watching was have a decent amount of success. And what I mean by that is like cracking the fuck out of Gomez with big bombs, like multiple times throughout the course of the round. And then all you hear is just how like literally there was one moment where Marshall landed a big hook and then the British guy literally made the comment, John Gooden, he made the comment like, oh, Marshall's just hitting air. I'm like, he literally just cracked. And so yeah, so round one, we'll just get to it. Round one, I don't think is very controversial.
I think 1 and 3 are pretty obvious. I think the controversy is all in round two. And it actually is, looking at the judges' scorecards. It is. However, I think there is well, let's get to it. So Gomez is frustrating the hell out of Francis, right? He lands 8% of his strikes in the round, which I think is like 3 or 4 strikes, right? Like he can't touch Gomez. He can't catch him. Gomez is keeping it light, not really doing much damage, I'm going to say.
And Gomez defending the takedowns, right? Keeping it standing, which was the whole question.
Exactly. So, like, Gomez gets it in his fight, isn't being hit, is probably winning the damage battle only because he's not being hit, right? Like, the 3 or 4 Marshall lands are good strikes, but Gomez probably lands 14, and I think he wins the round. I think, and all three
Yes,
judges
yes.
agree. I think it sounds like you agree.
The body kicks, the head kicks. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Round one, not really up for debate. Round two gets a little murky, and a lot of people were like, a lot of people were feeling this way on Twitter. I saw a lot of comments about the commentary team, which it was kind of an awkward group. It was Felder, Gooden, and Cruz. So they've never done those three paired together.
Yeah,
They
it was
may
a little
never pair
awkward.
those three again
A little
today. Like
awkward.
it may be a one and done for that trio. But
Cruz was having some hot takes last night too.
when Felder had his bad moments, I've just never been the biggest Gooden guy. Like, let's get Senko on the mic. Let's get Senko on the mic.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
On Instagram.
But yeah,
What?
hey, shout out quarterly thirst trap. But
what?
but yeah, man. So round two, I do think commentary almost ruins like the fun fight talk, and that's why my problem is because I thought round two illegitimately was a coin flip. There legitimately was an argument for either guy.
I had it as very close, right? Because there's not much damage, and it's a lot of control for Marshall and no control for Gomez. But
when
also
you can argue that Marshall won the
Gomez.
damage battle.
I think it's really close. I think that's the coin flip is the damage, but the control's not.
If you listen to the commentary, Marshall got no damage off.
See, I disagree with that entirely. I think the damage
me too. But that's what I'm saying.
With Gomez maybe ahead slightly, right? But then also Marshall controlled so much of the round that like I had to go to Marshall.
Yeah, see, to me it was like a quantity versus quality argument, and I'm sitting here making the argument for Marshall, but only to counter the narrative of the commentary. I actually gave it to Gomez. I thought Gomez did more work throughout the course of the round. However, as I was listening to it, just wasn't matching my eyes. They were sitting I'm not even exaggerating. There was a time where Marshall landed bombs, and it wasn't just one or two. It was probably like 6 to 7 like pretty like significant like hooks
In the
landed
second?
like pretty clean in the second round.
Yeah, the second
Like
is when he
on,
landed his
on
best
Gomez's
shots.
chin. Yeah, he was landing great shots, getting damage off. And then the whole second round, like as he's getting debatably winning the damage battle, all you hear is the commentary team, oh, he's hitting air. Oh, he's at 7%. And it's like, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying like two things can be true at once. Like, all right, if I whiff times in a row, absolutely crack your shit on the 8th one. Like, let's not talk about the 7 I just missed. You know what I'm saying?
Because I just wrecked you with one.
Yeah, exactly. Or like if a basketball player, he's having kind of a cold night, but he hits the game-winning shot or like the go-ahead shot. Like, yeah, but he missed the past 6. Like
Russell Westbrook,
like,
3 of 19 in game 1 and made the game-winning plays at the end of the game.
Let's not talk about the ones he missed here. Like, I don't know. I feel like that was happening. I don't know. Like, there was some pretty Gomez-leaning commentary, which is random. None of them have ties to France, or I don't know what they got against Marshall. But
you know what it was, man? It's that Felder loves striking. Cruz loves movement. They fell in love with the style they were watching.
When it was pretty on the eyes, man. And like I said, I gave the round to Gomez. So call me a hypocrite if you want. The disparity between the reality of what was happening and the commentary, there was like a gap there. I just wanted to really kind of harp on that. It really has been annoying. I'm rarely that guy to die on that hill, but it like jumped out to me like, well, goddamn, he's doing something in there. He's like, he debatably won the round, and all they talked about for 5 minutes straight was just how he didn't do dick.
I really appreciate you saying it because I did score it for Marshall. I thought you were going to say you scored it for Marshall, but I'm glad that you say it was at least close.
So close. So fucking close.
And that being said, I thought Marshall won the third.
Yes, I thought Marshall won the third. Like you said, I didn't find it all that controversial. 2 takedowns. The rear naked choke attempt that it was pretty fucking close. I actually don't really know. It was one of those.
I don't know how he got out.
Who was the strawweight girl from Hughes? Was it Sam Hughes that got out of a deep naked the other week?
In round 1.
It was very similar to that one where it was like it was in. Like how it didn't.
Like Gomez like literally reached up and like pulled the hand down and then pulled the other hand off, like all while not breathing. I was like, Jesus.
Subtle thing, but like we might be seeing like an evolution in like RNC defense. Like,
yeah,
RNC seems to be a.
They touched on it in the commentary, which I was super stoked on. Is like the whole move is like don't freak out, just like chill and try to fight one hand. Because if you get one hand off, you can essentially almost turn away from the arm, and then it's not fully choking you out.
Because that's like an air choke, right? So it's like it's like it's not like an arm bar where you got or a knee bar where you got to tap or you're going to be hurt. Like worst case, you go to sleep
You just got to be
And
cool
it's
and
like,
keep working. Keep technically working the hands off.
hey, let's get Dustin Poirier to train with Gomez and Sam Hughes and see maybe if the RNC. I don't know. He seems to be a weakness, but
Seems like a big
and then
RNC guy.
and then there was the arm triangle attempt, which was also close.
Tight. And then Gomez got out of that.
So I mean, it's hard to really score that as damage, but I do score it as like more than as if it wasn't close. Like that was two submissions. Like he almost ended the fight twice. Now they weren't damaging submissions, so I don't know. You can get real lawyer ball with it if you want to, but I definitely gave it to Marshall. So I had it 29-28 Gomez. If you had a 29-28 Marshall, like you're not a crazy person. You're really not.
I'll also say Marshall landed almost 20 strikes in the final 30 seconds. So, like, he was getting a good amount of damage. He actually landed more strikes in the fight than Gomez, to people's, like, fucking surprise. Yeah, the whole last 2 minutes was all Marshall. So, like, end of the day, it's almost like if you asked me on the street who won the fight, probably Marshall. But if you asked me who won the point fight, I could see why Gomez won.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's what I was kind of making the argument that, like, Gomez won the numbers, well, maybe even not, but Marshall won the damage. Like it was, yeah, no, for sure, man. I thought Marshall performed really well, and to fight a striker that high a level that early in your career when you're 7-0, like I'm not done with Marshall yet either, man. Like he could, I mean, he's 24 years old. I mean, he could be very, very, very good, but that's why, like, I don't know, man. You're a pro fighter, right? They all go on your record, so I guess whether it's in some minor league or the upper league, it doesn't really matter. But, like, I don't know, man. You just hate to see these 7-0 guys. Like, what if – so he just lost one. What if he ends up losing another two and he's cut before he's 10 fights into his career, but the guy's good as fuck? And, like, if he would have waited till he was 13 fights into his career to even show up to the big show, maybe we got, like, a dope, like, polished product on our hands. Like, they could really make a run. But instead – we have these like, but the NBA does it, right? Like the last 5 guys on the NBA bench are like 19-year-old kids who they haven't really put it all together yet, but the potential's there and they're really athletic and they're hungry to learn. But
I mean,
most of them wash out, like, right? Like like the Jonathan Isaacs of the world. I mean, there's injuries, but like all these NBA players who are just like freak athletes, look great on paper, impressive amateur resumes. And then they just get to the NBA at 18, 19 years old and, you know, bounce around, hit the G League, some summer leagues, and they're playing in fucking Morocco or somewhere before you know it. Like,
I mean, best example is probably Brandon Moreno, right? Like, failed out of the UFC, found his way in the LFA, got better, trained his skills up, came back to the UFC, is a champion, and is like a well-respected champion now.
Like, do you think like a hard and fast number, like you don't get into the UFC until you're 10 fights in, like that might solve some of this? Like,
well, no, because
granted, I don't even know.
No, because Alex Pereira. I think there are guys that Izzy Adesanya. You have 75 kickboxing fights. I think you can make that transition if you've been working grappling for 2 years in the shadows.
It's a good point, man. It's a good point. It's a solid point. Yeah, it's a solid point. But I mean, it's also the same way, like
world-class wrestlers, right? Like Henry Cejudo. Like, and he's also one of the guys that failed in his first run and then went back to the drawing board, got better, improved his skill sets that weren't wrestling, and incorporated his wrestling around those other skill sets. And now that's why he's triple C, maybe going to be quadruple C. We'll see.
Like I did there. No, those are all some real good points. I do think it needs to be treated more as an exception than the rule, though, right? Like,
100%.
They're not all.
I need like, you have to be world class in your first discipline if you want to make that transition on low fight totals.
Probably zero hyperbole. There's probably over 40 fighters, both men and women, signed to the UFC, who are probably like 6-0 to 8-0 range,
and not world class champions in another organization.
Yeah, of those, maybe like
7
of them are like, are that what we're talking about? Yeah, like I agree.
Between 14 or 15 weight classes, 7 of those people, like, you're an anomaly to be that person. However, the sport needs those people to thrive because it's mixed martial arts, right? So we need the best of the best in one martial art to try and learn the basics of the others and bring their best against like the most well-rounded that we have. Like I think it makes it so much more interesting to bring those guys over specifically.
Well, that's what they set the first octagon up in '93 to find out, right? Like
it's
that
the premise of
like,
it, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. So great little discussion there. I just, it's weird how to view these young prospects. You know, there's so many of them. They have such few fights under their belt. Like Francis Marshall could go on to be world class, or he could be fighting down at the Silver Legacy in a couple of years. And I mean, it could go either way. I don't know how to like view these guys, but we'll keep it pushing.
Experience is invaluable, man. In any sport, I think that's absolutely true. And I think you could ask any veteran of any sport, and they would agree with that statement.
Yeah, for sure, man. And all sports have some level of like prospects not panning out, and what's the correct amount of time to let a guy develop. Like Trey Lance with the Niners, like every sport encounters these kind of tough questions, and it doesn't always work.
What will happen with Anthony Richardson and the Raiders? Like, you know.
Yeah, you never know.
Sorry about it.
But up next, speaking of very topical and relevant transition here, we got the 4-0 Junior Top. I almost said Justin Top. Minus 120, making his debut at 4-0. Let me repeat, 4 professional fights. Taking on Muhammad Usman, who's 34 years old and gets talked about like he's a fucking kid prospect.
The younger brother of Kamaru. It's like, hey, Kamaru's 36, almost 37, right? Don't act like either of these guys are young.
Yeah, for sure.
I will give you a heavyweight 34. You still have 6 years. Because power is the ultimate number.
I don't know if Usman does.
I don't know if he does. But I'm just saying, Mark Hunt, you know what I'm saying? Like, guys like that have 6 years.
For sure, man. And then, so we both, pretty much the whole show, me, you, and the third, pretty much addition to the squad, everybody, a good buddy of ours, Michael, really been helping us out, editing the clips and the reels. You've been seeing us step up our YouTube short and Instagram reel game. It's all due to that guy. So huge shout out to Michael. You're the homie. But we were all riding the under 1.5 rounds on this, which was giving you even money, which spoiler alert, it doesn't cash, but I'm still not mad at that bet.
We got cock teased so hard on the under.
Oh, yeah. So hard. And I mean, round one, of the round, Snoozman clinch.
Oh, it's Snoozman. It's Muhammad Snoozman. Sorry, Marty Snoozman. Move over for Mo Snoozman.
Yeah, Mo Snoozman's taking the family name and running with it hard.
Holy shit, dude. This was the snooziest fight on the card.
So ever since I stopped hating Blaydes and Ashton Ladd moved on to PFL, I've been needing a new most hated fighter, like somebody who I just get salty when I see 3 weeks out when I'm looking at a card and I'm like, oh, I got to fucking spend my Saturday watching this guy.
Carlos Barza didn't do it for you?
She's still yeah, but I mean, spread the hate around a little bit.
Oh yeah, I just want to make sure.
But stepping up to the plate for giving me a fighter to fucking can't stand. Just stylistically, everything about it, I think I didn't want going back to when he was on Tough. I was going for Palga. I didn't want him to win the season of Tough.
Me too. And then when he knocked him out, I was so sad. And then Palga moved down, and it wasn't good for him either. And I was like, sucks, man.
Yeah,
the guy who wanted is not in the UFC probably now, and the guy that I hate that got carried by this brother's name is in the UFC. I think he did do steroids, and fuck Usman.
Yeah, you mean the 34-year-old with the acne of a fucking middle school hallway? You mean with the pharmacist brother, that guy?
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry about it.
Guy. The thing is, him and Kamaru standing next to each other,
same height.
It really just looks like Bane Kamaru. If you just gave Kamaru all the juice in the world, he was working at a gym before. He was definitely a roid plug.
He wrestled and played football at Texas, or wrestled in the state of Texas, and then played football at a small Texas university, and then tried to play pro, and then worked at a gym. Does anyone else hear what I'm saying? The guy juiced.
Yeah, it looks pretty juiceman. Snoozman and Juiceman all wrapped up into one. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to be a juice to the gills fighter,
swing for the fences. Now, he
Yeah,
did try to swing for the fences at the end of the round one, and Junior Taffa started catching him with inside elbows, uppercuts. He had him rocked to the gills. I thought he was going to finish him. I don't know how he didn't finish him. And unfortunately, it goes to round two. And from round 2 to round 3, man, it's the same shit. Like, it's Usman wrestle fucking his way to a win from rounds 2 and 3 and barely not getting finished in round 1. I gave 1 to Taffa, for sure.
Yeah, I gave 1 to Taffa too, for sure, 1,000%. And, like, round 2 was Usman. It was snoozy top control, like the whole 4 minutes of round. A little bit of ground and pound, but super snoozy, not a lot of damage. And then, as bad as I was at Usman, Junior Taffa's bottom game.
He's got to learn how the fuck to get up.
He made me want to throw up in my mouth, dude. Like, it was like, because like I said, I'm no black belt expert. Like, I can't tell you the in and out of how to do every single sweep from bottom. Hey, I know when a guy's trying or not. I know when a guy is chilling or not. I know when a guy is doing literally anything at all, which he wasn't.
I know when you're shrimping or bridging or fighting for underhooks or overhooks, like, I can see the visible points that you should be working.
Like, box not checked, box not checked, box not checked. Like, give a fuck if you're losing a fight, box not checked. Like, so as much as we're clowning on Snoozman and least favorite fighter, I mean, Junior Taffa on bottom may be it may be the worst, some of the worst mixed martial arts these guys have ever laid
honestly
side on.
You know what it sucked about it though is that, like, we'll get to it later, but Simmelsberger, his bottom game is equally bad for the same reasons. They don't use their legs.
I want to say equally. Point taken. I get, it was very bad for Simmelsberger, but there was some level of effort. Even if the technique was poor, that's what I'm saying. You get zero effort and zero technique. It was it made me want to throw up. It was so bad.
And Usman's not like some wizard on
top game was so bad.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you. I'm glad you agree. Wasn't wizard top game where he was so moving to transition and cover shrimping and go to half guard and work to pass. No, it was just literally lay on top and maybe go to half guard if he could somehow get to it and then continue to lay. Was
Montalvo the ref on this one? Or fuck whoever the ref was too, because that should have been stood up so many times. Keep it pushing to round 3 because it's more Usman snoozy control. Granted, I'll say Usman's ability to get the takedowns was pretty decent. He seemed when he really needed to get a fight to the ground, he was able to. So say something nice about somebody, but
I mean, against a skilled heavyweight though that has any sort of grappling or distance control or range management, that's not going to work.
For sure. No, Taffa did manage to finally get up to the feet and land pretty much one bomb at the end of the round. And I got to be real. I gave round 3 to Usman, but I thought about giving it to Taffa because that one bomb was more damage. He won the damage battle.
I was going to say, how funny was it that the round 3 was close just due to the last 20 seconds?
One punch versus 4 minutes of nothing of control. But this fight was, me too. Begrudgingly, I think would be the word.
So sad to give it to him.
And so, all 3 judges go 29-28 Usman. We both go 29-28 Usman. Fuck that fight. If there was we may need to make a new category of snoozer of the year.
Yeah, snoozer of the year.
Shit on a fight.
Usman landed 7 strikes standing. 7 standing strikes in a 15-minute fight.
Couldn't have landed much more than 7 grounded strikes.
They credit him with 70 grounded strikes.
Oh, fuck out of here, man.
But you know what I'm saying, little inside body hits count for those.
Oh, that was some weak shit, dude. Yeah, but Mo Usman, new hated fighter, Junior Taffa, not even UFC caliber. If he had a different last name and did it, they're like, oh, he trains with Tuivasa. Yeah, he looks like he eats with Tuivasa too. They train together
Pudgy body, team Pudgy body.
Yeah, team fucking no technique, be fat and hit hard.
They need to talk to Tyson Pedro. Whatever Tyson Pedro's doing, they need to get on that diet.
Yeah, or Felipe Lins, who went from being the sloppiest heavyweight to super job.
Or even Bozer.
Yeah.
Hell,
exactly.
Bozer looked great at 205.
fit. Yeah, well, his body did.
Well,
but
fit wise.
Yeah,
He should walk around at that weight for the rest of his life. He'd be very healthy.
But yeah, and then just Usman, man. I mean, I never was in, so I can't say I'm out. But like, fucking 2 thumbs down on this one. Let's keep it pushing.
Let's keep it pushing because we got a featherweight fight. I'm gonna grab a beer real fast. If you want to introduce it, or if you want to go into
yeah, grab a pillow while you're at it, bro. Grab a
yeah.
fucking
I was gonna
pillow,
say I'll grab a pillow.
Snooze.
And if you want to give a tirade about featherweight and maybe why it shouldn't even exist with fights like this, I'm not against it. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's exactly. I'm gonna fucking take that alley oop that Harrison just threw me and run with it because we have been probably the most pro women's featherweight show that I'm not saying another one out there doesn't exist, but like I watch a lot of MMA content and I never really see anybody besides us pounding the table because you hear the opposite take of like, let's just get rid of women's featherweight. There's no rankings. It's kind of a Fugaze division. It was kind of just created for like back in the Nunez Cyborg days. That Cyborg's long moved on. There's no contenders for Nunez. And it just seems kind of fugazi and a waste of time. And then we half the people that fight at this weight class are really bantamweights that just want to take a fight without cutting weight. And it's the kind of not a real division. But me and Harrison always argue, why isn't it? Like it could be a little bit of effort, a little bit of promotion, signing here, signing there, an exciting matchup, some card placement. There's no reason why featherweight couldn't be a real division. I was just saying a little time, a little effort, a signing here, a card placement there. We could make this a real division.
Like that's the
the Terramana. Much mana.
No.
Hell yeah, you should like make UFC fighters drink it and not pay them. I think that's what like The Rock likes to do. But
like Mana Martinez or Terramana Martinez because he likes to get sculpted. Anyway, that was about to be a brutal joke. Find those jokes on X and XX. So yeah, with featherweight, I just think that like, yeah, man, they don't promote it, but also like you get fights like this and it's like, maybe we shouldn't promote it. And then like the fugazi nature of it, like Carol Hossa moving up from 9 at bantamweight to fight Norma Dumont at featherweight. For Dumont, essentially, if she has a good performance to get a title shot is like, well, what the fuck are we even talking about?
Well, see, actually, I was kind of stoked for that lead-in. I'm kind of stoked that they put that on this kind of, or Dumont at least put that on herself. Like, it was trending in the division of like, okay, this is how we talk in other divisions that are real divisions. Like, okay, like now we're getting somewhere. Like we're always talking about how we want this to be a real division. We're talking about the belt. We're talking about contenders. You could argue merit, and I get your point that you made, but I kind of like the talk surrounding women's featherweight and meaningful fights in that division. Now, UFC kind of told you all they needed to tell you by putting this fight on the prelims. Like that's why I never really bought that it was a true number one contenders match is because like, well, it's on the prelim. So like UFC's like telling you without telling you, but like,
but it's like a title eliminator.
But was it though? Like credit to Dumont for spreading that narrative. Like that's her job. Like that's her and her team and her manager, like getting people to like speak in that, use those kind of terms. Great job. Hats off. More fighters need to do that, especially at women's bantamweight and featherweight. Loved it. Really did love it. Honestly,
did I get sold by Norma Dumont?
Maybe, but I'm saying like that's awesome because no other featherweight's selling you dick. So it's like somebody sell me something here, and so I actually like Dumont's kind of work for building the fight, hyping the fight. But to your point, I'm building this up to crash it all down. Like your point,
thank God.
I counting the desk for women's featherweight for like 24 months. I think I'm done. This fight fucking stunk. This division fucking stinks. Strip Nunez of the belt because who gives a shit? It's kind of like a Fugazi BMF type of belt at this point anyway. Like, be done with women's featherweight. All the women's featherweight fighters, go to Bellator, go to PFL. Might even make more money. Good for you. Go to one. Whatever the fuck. But UFC women's featherweight, fucking stick a fork in it. It's fucking done.
So how would you feel about a men's 225 division in place of the women's 145?
Yeah, I'll do it. There's no Title IX in the UFC. There's nobody saying it's got to...
Yeah, hey, what sells, sells. Yeah, and I think a cruiserweight would be fire in the UFC. 225, Jailton Almeida, like you're gonna get guys like that like belong at that weight, and 265 is like the most enormous humans on earth, and 205 isn't necessarily those guys. You know what I mean? And there are in between people.
Sure, probably like Jamal Hill, Prohaska, all those guys would probably
John
dabble
Jones is probably best at 230.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. For sure. Yeah, I'm not. Or hell, be down to go the other way. And if you do want to keep it balanced and have maybe try atomweight out.
105.
But yeah,
I'm here for it.
But yeah, regardless though, women's featherweight. Like every time, I'm just kind of done sticking my neck out for it. Like this is what we get, man.
What about women's 155? We just go women's lightweight. We just go up again. It's a harder sell. It's a way harder sell.
Well, no. I don't hate the idea in and of itself. It's just like at that point, let's just make 45 great again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, you need a guy like Colby to make it great again. But all right, man, let's dive into it because I have, I guess, a hot take. It's Norma Dumont minus 115. Carol Hossa minus 105. I have Dumont, and this is technically
our show was very high on Dumont. You and Michael were high on Dumont. Sold me on it. I wasn't as high on it just because, like, I mean, it was kind of. You look at both of these girls' topologies, and you know what? I did one of these. I was just like a meh, just like a. So it was like meh versus meh, and Vegas agreed. It was minus 105 and minus 115. So it was like, do I really like believe in either of these girls? Like no. But honestly, I rode with my boys, and thank God I did because this is one of the only bets I hit all weekend.
Let's go.
But yeah, so good on the boys for talking me into betting Dumont. But I just was like, meh. And then there was Rosa moving up from bantamweight to featherweight. So how's that going to factor in? Because it's not a real division, they had to like literally go get someone from a different division. Anyway, we'll get to the actual, I guess, action would be a strong word to use here. I mean, round one, I gave it to Dumont. She clinched over nothing. Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, Dumont really just did snoozy clinch. They're like, she landed a couple hard shots at the end of the round that like made it easier to score. But I mean, it was really more of Hossa doing nothing than really me wanting to give the round to Dumont. But I mean, I kind of had to.
I had him essentially even in damage, and with Dumont having the snoozy control, I thought her control as a secondary measure of scoring won her the round. So I gave it 10-9 Dumont. Now, round two, both girls kind of let the hands fly at the start. Rosa actually got the cut
at the start, being the fucking keyword there at the start.
I'm just gonna say Dumont got her damage off right there, and then got snoozy control for the rest of the round. While Rosa, I thought, continued to stack damage. On my scorecard, I had Rosa winning too because it was just a snooze fest where like cumulative damage for me outweighed the one or two strikes that Dumont landed at the start.
See, I saw it for Dumont, and I'm not dying on any hills here because this round sucked, but like, got the cut, got the damage off, and then the way I viewed it, I guess Hossa did get some damage off, but like they pretty much just traded places on the fence, like snooze and clinch, like pretty much.
But Hossa was weaving in strikes occasionally. Yeah, but Dumont really wasn't at all, like at all. She landed 11 in the whole round. Hossa landed 28.
and did more damage than Hossa did in the whole fight. Like, let's be real.
Maybe. I don't know. The most significant strike.
I don't see how you like.
The most significant strike comes in the third round. It doesn't cut Dumont, but she gets fucking cracked in the third by Hossa.
How you like Francis Marshall in 2, but like don't like Dumont in 2.
Because I just thought the damage was like, you know, you cut an eyelid, your glove clips your eyelid. Like, it's not like an impact cut. It's like she got clipped and it like literally like ripped her eyelid open from the leather. So I wasn't like, all right, like that strike didn't hurt you. It just cut your eyelid.
But she was cracking her though. She was cracking her. Like it was like, but to your point, even when she was having success, it was still kind of boring. It was 1-2. She just spammed 1-2, 1-2 like 4 times in a row. Like it wasn't even like the striking was creative. It was effective.
Fair enough. And here's what I'll say is this fight sucks so much that I'll die on no hill for either woman. And honestly, me being 5 out of 5 in my bets, Keep that money coming, Norma Dumont and the judges.
Yeah, for sure. And round 3 was definitely Carol Hosa. She gets a knockdown at the start of the round, gets some clinch elbows off at the end of the round. Honestly, like, where the fuck was that? Like, if Carol Hosa does that for 3 rounds, hell, if Carol Hosa does that for the first, like, 7 minutes, this fight probably doesn't see a 3rd round.
Agreed.
I just, I thought I had Carol Hosa losing. Judges did. It was too little too late. Like, you know, you're a real sweet guy giving her round 2, but, like, it was just like.
I even wrote in my notes I thought it'd be a split. That's how convinced I was round 2 was that close.
See, I wasn't. Round 2.
Yeah,
round 2 sucked.
You and Michael both said that. I think verdict agree with you guys. I think I'm on an island. I think I was just like, I was so mad at Dumont for wasting this opportunity. Like, I'm not going to reward you for having this opportunity laid out in front of you that was given to you to essentially, if you put on a good performance, we're going to give you a shot at a belt that is fugazi. But you're going to waste it with this performance. I don't want to reward that. Like, I know it's a subconscious feeling, and that's probably not the right way to score it, but I was just like, God, man.
No,
like,
I was struggling with
trying.
I was struggling with that. Yeah, I was struggling with that same thing. Like, I did not want to reward Dumont here. And I'll say this. I don't think there's a way in hell she gets a title shot. Unless Dana is just feeling, like, petty and, like, wants to just, like, punish her and, like, see some violence. And, like, because what Nunes does to either one of those girls is just, I mean,
or it'd be a punishment to pundits for featherweight like we have been. Like, he would be like, okay, here's your best opportunity. Let's see what Amanda Nunes does with this. It won't be good.
No, and, like, you know what, though? I'll put it this way. If it was one of those one card a year that have 3 belts on it and this is the 3rd title fight.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah,
fuck it.
I'll take it. It's fugazi as hell, but I'll take it.
Got, like, Kron Gracie versus Charles Jourdain on the next pay-per-view main card.
That's
so it's
gas.
like.
That's gas. Kron is so good.
But I'm just talking about, like.
I don't know. Charles Jourdain deserves that. I think Kron deserves it.
Fight just doesn't scream pay-per-view main card to me. Maybe that's a bad take. It doesn't like scream like
main
I'm
card
trying.
Opener. I'm pretty gassed. Is it the opener?
Probably,
it's,
but
it's pretty gas.
Honestly, I'm just kind of down on that card. Honestly, that card doesn't seem like an $80 card.
I think stylistically that fight is so fun. Like, that's fight of the night potential style of fight.
Yeah, I don't know. If Jourdain shows up, I feel like he's kind of fucking.
But he's going to go for it, and Kron Gracie's going to go. They both have, like, that, like, super forward style, and Gracie's clearly the better grappler, and Jourdain's arguably the better striker, but it's close, so, like, that's a fun fight.
He has a different last name. He's still on the main card.
No, but that's part of it.
Okay, that's kind of my point I'm trying to make.
We're selling pay-per-views, bud. It's a business.
Man, so Dumont is not going to be selling any pay-per-views, I think is what we're getting at here.
Right. That's the point, right? Is that, like, this division's fugazi, and with performances like that, I don't need it. I don't need it because, like, that performance is so bad, so boring. That's the next best you have to offer to Nunes. I'll just see her at bantamweight.
Yeah, for sure, man. And, man, honestly, let's give it this gross taste of these last 2 fights out of our mouth.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What did you say? Gross? The last fight is delicious, delectable, awesome. Oh, you mean the 2 fights we just covered?
I was just going to go full Brian Callen sus and be like, no, Montel Jackson is delicious, but yeah, man.
Hey, bro, you already said it.
Yeah, I already said it, man.
I mean, minus 600, biggest favorite on the card. The only fight that's not even close as far as odds. Montel Jackson at bantamweight. He might be a bantamweight to look out for, by the way. We're going to talk about that. Versus Ronnie, as Gooden would say, Yahya, which was weird. He just called me Yahya. You just say it right. Plus 450. Old school vet. Kind of just poses the threat of a grappling test. I think Montel Jackson is getting the build from the UFC where we're going to see him get old school striker, old school grappler, new school striker, new school grappler, then a full package, then probably he's like top 10.
No, he's good, man. He is really good in a lot of areas because he has like the tangible tools, the length, the speed, the power. He has all those.
Grappling defense was pretty good, I thought.
The scary kind of calm. the scary kind of calm where he's legitimately not afraid of you. Like, and he's not just saying that or acting like he's not afraid of you or convincing himself he's not afraid of you. Like, he's legit in there chilling, big chilling.
He showed great fight IQ too. Like whenever he got in the top position, whenever Yaya tried to like suck him down and was trying to like essentially work into a jiu-jitsu match, he just stood up and was like, "No, no, no, let's stand back up. Like I know where I'm better than you at."
Yes, yes, which didn't let the ego get involved. Just like a fucking Terminator out there, a lightning quick Terminator. Yeah, minus 600 versus plus 450. Michael, once again, shout out the homie Michael, third beefy boy out there, and he
got another
he was
cow
saying,
on the farm.
Yeah, he said Yaya's getting fed to the wolves here. And
He was.
He was for sure. Because I tried to play devil's advocate, like, well, Yaya always has his path to victory, the grappling. But
Michael was like, and
Yeah.
certainly it was quick, right? Like I think a minute 40 is the official time of the finish, and it was just
No. It went 340, and because remember there was that
340.
Montel
I'm thinking of the next
actually
fight. I'm thinking of the next fight.
Montel actually survived being in Yaya's guard for a little bit, like where
Yeah.
Yaya got the fight to where like as a realm, his world, his realm, his path to victory, as I was putting it, and Montel once again just staying calm, not like getting at one point even Yaya kind of had a little bit of a grip on his arm, and it got a little
He
bit
was holding the
dicey for a
glove, you
second.
mean?
Yeah, he was holding the glove and a crafty vet move, as they say.
Yeah, you
Uh,
fucker.
but just Jackson never panicked, never really put himself in a bad position, never overextended, got some damage off, but was really, like you said, focusing on separating and getting back to the feet, which, like you said, fight IQ, calm.
Yeah, a lot
Uh,
of fight IQ.
and he ended up knocking him down with the left hand, just
The
instantly sat him
counters.
down.
It was a McGregor-esque counter. Like literally stepped back on the
It
right. He's
was.
a
It
southpaw.
was.
Came
Ooh.
over the top with the left as soon as he got his as soon as Yaya got across the center line of Montel Jackson's lead leg. Like that's an ultimate sin if you're orthodox versus southpaw. You can't cross the lead leg. Same for the southpaw versus the orthodox, but like often the mistakes made by the orthodox, right? Because that's the more common style. So when you cross that lead leg, you've essentially hung yourself out to dry from the backhand, and that's what you can't do. And Ronnie Yaya paid the price for that.
He did, man. And it was, I don't know. We'll get to it. So, yeah, I mean, he ends up getting the finish here, 3 minutes and 42 seconds. I got to say, we've said a lot of nice things about Jackson. Absolute dog shit on the mic, which, you
Terrible on
don't
the
have to
mic.
be great on the mic, but, like, it helps, it
Literally can't
helps.
even remember him on the mic. You know what I mean?
He was, I mean, literally one of those emotionless guys, which some people are like that. And I don't know, I go back and forth. Like, would I rather have that or like some forced cringe Corey Sandhagen bullshit where you're like trying to be something you're not? Like,
I go
I
back and
don't
forth
know.
on both those. They're both equally on. Like at least I remember Corey Sandhagen though. At least I remember that. Like I'll say,
True.
infamy and fame are the same as far as my remembrance.
Yeah, man. So Jackson, I think he's gonna have to take the long road there, but like kind of the ultimate compliment. He may be good enough to do that. Like,
I think so. I like Montel Jackson. Like that's a bright prospect at bantamweight. He
because
brings
like
fire hands. He reminds me a lot of like Peter Yan almost. Like, and that's a
when
big
like
compliment.
but imagine if Peter Yan was like 5'10" and lanky. You know what I'm saying? Like the build on
Like
him.
Aljo body, but Peter Yan
Yeah,
style. It's really
yeah.
interesting.
He didn't show offensive grappling, but that defensive grappling, I mean, if Yaya's not going to catch you in something, it's hard to think of
Well,
lower end bantamweights who will.
if you're smart enough to just stand back up and strike him back down to the ground in your advantage position, then like yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not even worried
No, super.
about your top game as far as the guard. If you're smart enough to stand back up, like you're not going to ego yourself, which is already a
Yeah.
huge trait.
And like, you're not going to do high stand versus Jackson just because it kind of doesn't do much for either guy, right? Like, I mean, sometimes you
Agreed.
look at other
They're
people in the
too
weight
far
class that
apart.
fought on the same card. Yeah, so I think Jackson has big things coming for him. Like if
Oh,
you have a
I think
name,
Adrian
like,
Yanez and Montel Jackson can get a fight popping soon.
oh, that would be
So fun.
sick.
So
That
fun.
would be sick. Or Gutierrez coming off the loss. That
Gutierrez, Jackson. That's a more challenging test, I think, for Jackson because with Yanez, both counter strikers, so it might be a boring fight. Probably not a fight
bigger
they
than
make.
Yanez.
Gutierrez likes to come forward. Very fun fight. And the leg
And
kicks
they're like the
presented a
same
very different
size.
challenge.
Yeah, for sure, man. Some fun fights at bantamweight, as always. We love our bantamweights.
I mean,
Jackson,
deepest division
a real
in the
prospect.
organization.
Where would you take Jackson just as a prospect? That you have to pick one guy's rookie card to get that you think is going to go on to have like the most success. You going Jackson, or are you doing a Bosharat, brother? I'll let you pick one. Very different fighters. Very different skill set.
Yeah, give me Javid Bashrat.
Javid Bosharat, okay.
Yeah.
More well-rounded, versatile.
Not Fareed. I like Fareed. Fareed's the older one, correct?
Yeah, I think Javid's the better prospect. I don't know who's older or younger, but I believe Javid's
the younger brother
that.
to me stood out more.
Okay, yeah.
I believe that's Javid.
Maybe. Yeah, I'll be real. I have no fucking clue. But I kind of lump those guys together. Until one of them separates themselves, they're the Bosharat brothers. That's how I see it. Until somebody, like, takes off.
Do you think that's good? Or on a side note, before we get to this featured prelim that I did have some money on. Let's go. Before we get to that, I do want to ask, do you think that is a good marketing ploy? Obviously, getting to the UFC, great, right? Like fighting with your brother on the same card. Now, at this point, do they need to fight separately so that we can define them separately? Or is it a better sell for them to fight together still?
No, I mean, I think it could be worked. Like the Pitbull and his brother and Bellator, right? Like it's been done. I just think that neither one of them has really had like separated themselves from the pack. Like that's what I'm saying. The Bosharat brothers, the Jacksons, there's so many back end bantamweights that are so good that like aren't ranked that like it just has to sort itself out. You know what I mean?
Agree.
Like because
I agree.
Neither one of those guys have like because once it's like, oh, remember when Javid fought X and had an awesome fight, but Fareed fought X and like neither one of them has had like those standout moments to where like I think that'll work itself out.
Okay, fair enough. I agree with the take. Let's keep it pushing. Featured prelim here, lightweight. We got Ricky Glenn making his return, minus 155 against Christos Giagos, plus 135. Man, so I had Giagos in this fight, right?
Yeah, you felt strongly about this. I don't think me or Michael bet this one.
You know what's the weirdest?
You had this that.
Neither of you asked me why I took Giagos. Neither of you asked me. It would have been the best answer.
I think we were trying to be nice. We're like, this fucking guy's just out here trying to just donate money to the Giagos Foundation. Like it's not that I was that high on Ricky Glenn. I just was like, I don't know, bro. I just didn't see like a reason to be excited about Giagos. Like I'll be real. Like I just saw like mid versus mid here. But you felt very strongly. So yeah, please let us know how you were seeing this one. Because
it's gonna be the most wild take in a long time. I didn't look up the topology on either of these guys. I couldn't tell you who either of them fought last. I can just tell you the last time I remember Giagos, he was a tough son of a bitch. And I bet on that. Solely that. And that's it.
You're not wrong. Well, you don't know why, because I have his topology pulled up right now, so we'll kind of merge the two worlds here. The one thing I did see, like Giagos' strength of schedule has been insane. So that's why you remember about the tough
dogs.
He's fought Moises, Sarukian, Jakar Close, Charles Oliveira back in the day. Holy fuck.
Yeah.
So he has fought essentially the best of the best. Charles Oliveira.
I just remember Giagos being a dog at lightweight, like fighting anyone, anytime, and always being tough in the fights. So literally didn't look it up. I remember gut feeling was like Giagos is gonna like will this win.
And then so I feel you. I mean, you're great call there. Giagos came out, and I mean,
sometimes you get lucky.
You know, Giagos came. I want to say it was luck. I mean, Giagos, man, this fight only lasted a minute and 35 seconds, man. He just started throwing bombs. When Ricky Glenn was doing this weird, like I forget the fighter, a UFC fighter who maybe it might have been Terrence McKinney. Somebody's pretty active on Twitter. He tweeted out like, "Is Ricky Glenn in slow motion right now? Like, is my TV broken?" Like he kept doing these little like
he was feeling out. He was like trying to feel the range. It's ring rest.
But it didn't even look like some shit that you would see like maybe light sparring day. You might see some shit like that, but it was weird. Like it wasn't even pitter pat. It's like he quite literally like wasn't throwing, but he was. Like,
He
it was
like
almost like a
couldn't
stretch. Like it was
he
something
like
you would
couldn't
do in the back.
it was like he couldn't feel his range. Like he was like unsure the minute he'd start to throw, like he'd stop and just kind of let it like lazily fly out, almost like seeing like, is this range like where I think it is? Like I swear to God, it was ring rest.
Hey, I mean that's a better explanation because I was just confused. So at least you're offering like a theory, and I mean I'm here for it. But yeah, man.
He
So
hasn't
Ricky
fought in
Glenn.
almost 4 years.
Also, Vegas having Rick Glenn as the favorite is a little weird. Like even as a guy, like I wasn't as bullish on Yagos as you, but I mean that had to have you 6 to midnight. As somebody who liked Yagos, getting the plus money on him, because like yeah, looking at the topologies, like looking at there's like a decent layoff for Glenn between fights. Like he's like a little bit older. Like I didn't see like on paper. Like I said, I'm not trying to hindsight 2020 it. I mean, this was a no bet for me either way, even if Yagos was
Yagos.
the favorite. But like, I just don't really know where Vegas was kind of building their argument to have Glenn be the favorite. I guess they just thought Yagos was washed, or I don't know.
If anyone's washed, Ricky Glenn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. For sure, man.
It was purely a like. I saw it. I saw the odds when I was looking at it on my phone, right? And a lot of these fights, like when you asked me, like I would like go break it down topology, right? Like I was looking for gyms, right? And I found a couple. Now with this one, I was just looking. I was value hunting because I wanted a fifth pick. I needed a fifth pick, and I was like, Yagos looks right to me. Like I don't know this guy he's fighting, and I always know who Yagos fights, so I'm gonna take Yagos this value.
Definitely the easiest matchmaking Yagos has found himself up against in quite some time. That's for sure. And then we got to settle another little bit, I guess, if you want to call it controversy. That where so like a minute and 30 into the first round, Yago slams a bomb left hook and drops Glenn like right on his face. And we talked about
I
this
mean,
either last week or the week before.
follows up with a
But
huge right and a left, and I thought Glenn was suspect. Probably deserved one more punch as far as like stoppages. But
okay,
like,
that seems to be the take.
I thought it was fine.
Bro,
I thought it was fine. Like
I didn't
I was
find
like
it to be early.
I thought the last punch kind of brought Glenn back more than anything. Because whenever it was the left right, like just the left right, like you were knocked down. Like you were knocked down and like pieced up on the ground, and that big left across on the third one was kind of what like brought you back up to looking.
Well, I know it's not the boxing rule set, but like I said, we mentioned either last week or the week before in the podcast about like in boxing, if you fall forward on your face, then you don't even get a 10 count. Like it's over instantly. And I know it's a different rule set, and I'm
He
not
fell
saying we need to have
forward
but that's what I'm saying. Like when Rick Glenn like fell forward literally
and like
onto his
froze,
face,
like froze and
like
fell.
like that's a knockout. Like I was honestly kind of shocked because usually like I can see a stoppage and be like, oh, Twitter's not going to like that one. I was like, oh, that was actually kind of a vicious knockout. And then I get on Twitter and everybody's like, early stoppage, early. I was like, is this fucking CTE society hacked everyone's account? Like, I don't know, bro. Like, man, I'm getting soft, man. I just didn't. I thought not only did I'll go as far as to say I thought it was kind of a vicious KO. And other people thought it was an early stoppage. I don't know. I didn't see it. I mean, and I know Yagos throws heat, and Glenn's taking a lot of damage. Like
Hey,
the people that wanted to see more, I just didn't. I don't know. I didn't.
you know I was here for it. You know I was clamoring for the stoppage.
Yeah, for sure. No, and then yeah, I don't know. I didn't find it early, so I just wanted to get that last little take in there. Yagos is like one of those guys who's like weirdly relevant, like kind of like a Drew Dober. He's like Drew Dober light.
Yeah,
He's like
I agree. He's
like
just really tough, man. Like journeyman. Like I think like you know who he reminds me of is like a Gerald Meerschaert, but like more dangerous on the feet.
yeah, and more just jacked and like as Pat McAfee
More
just a jocked white,
more jocked white. And honestly,
and who's
more
down for a
likable
scrap.
too, right? Like way more
Yeah,
likable. Like
definitely.
in his post fight, like I even enjoyed what he had to say. Like it wasn't like he called out anyone specifically or like anything like that. Like just a tough guy that like is gonna give me a good show every time he's out there, which I respect and love and appreciate.
And you can match make it. God, he's fought in Josh Emmett. He has fought like
He's fought everybody.
multiple,
He's the toughest
like,
motherfucker I've
#1
ever seen.
contenders.
And he always takes insane damage against these guys and doesn't quit and eventually gets stopped. But it's because it's like, oh, someone needs to stop him because he's gonna die in there. So it was.
He never had more than a 2L streak in a row. He's had two 2L streaks in his career. One included one of those losses was Josh Emmett back in 2016, and then the two losses before this was Sarukian and Moises, who are essentially top guys. Moises dropped off a little bit, but Sarukian's gone up a little bit, so he kind of balances out. It's like you could say top 10 guys if you combine those guys together, and so like they could literally match Yagos against anybody. It could be some young killer, it could be some vet, it could be a ranked guy. And I'm not mad at any of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm here for all of it. I love Yagos. I love that I was 3 for 5 of my bets at that point. All dogs are fave, or I mean,
Crushing it.
Even pick'ems. That's the word for it. Yeah, I mean, and like I said, high stand. Obviously, like it's kind of lucky the way he gets to finish in the end. Yagos for me to just like feel it in my bones, kind of lucky. The theme of my picks was kind of lucky, right? Like Norma Dumont, I scored for Rosa, so technically lucky.
Yeah, and like that is part of it, right? Like I even make this argument myself because like I live here in Reno. Casinos are a big part of the industry. People like bring up like, hey, you into gambling, or you hit the slots, you hit the casinos, and I always be like, I'll hit the sports book, but I don't hit the slots because slots, it literally does feel so random and luck, whatever you want to call it. Or I don't even know how to feel about slots. Like it's clearly not random, but clearly we're never gonna know what it is. So, like, what are you doing here? Which kind of does turn it back random. I don't know. I legitimately can't even form, like, an opinion on slots. But I know it seems fugazi, and I'm not trying to just put 20s into this fucking glorified soda pop machine.
So, a quick explanation, as I've heard from, like, because obviously slots are just computer programs, right? Like, they're nothing more than that. So, like, they have to be programmed a certain way. So, like, I've heard about how they're programmed. Same on a base level as claw machines, right? Where, like, every so often it gets played, it's going to hit on, like, the 58th hit, right, with this much money put in, right? So, like, if this much money is put in by the 58th hit, it pays. Now, the thing with the changes is progressive machines where you have, like, the different lines are algorithmic, right? So, like, the more lines that are bet more consistently, the more money that's, like, pumped in hot and flowing, the more it pays out, and, like, you can win the ultimate jackpot, but you cannot unlock that jackpot unless you're playing max lines and it's, like, being pumped with max lines worth of money. Like, it's an algorithmic program.
The owner of the restaurant I work at was telling me, he's been in Reno a long time, knows some people in some pretty high places, people in that industry. He was telling me that it's programmed to like 51-49.
Yeah.
So like
you have to hit it and leave.
In theory,
what you pay to what you pay to
right?
win out is always less if you played it from literally payout. Like, so if you played it from first payout on jackpot to next jackpot, it's 51-49. You're exactly right. But when you hit it and play it and leave, like if you take other people that lose their money and you just take their loss into your spending, that's how you actually wreck slots. But it's super hard. It's all random.
Yeah, but long story short, what I'm getting at here is I tell people like, oh no, I'm a sportsbook guy because I feel like I can use my knowledge and I can actually kind of have more say, if you will, in what's going on. You can pick your odds, you can build your own parlay. Like it makes you feel as if you have a little, but it's gambling. You got to get lucky. Like that's part of it. Like it's part of it. No matter how much you know, none of the. I mean, Luke Thomas, Joe Rogan, none of these guys could go 100%. Hell, it'd probably be hard for them to go 70% because it is. There's a certain degree of randomness. There's a certain degree of. And just all the X factors, like who's feeling good that night, who had a flu 2 weeks ago, who was fucking their girlfriend too much that week, who had a bad steroid off cycle, who fucking, like there's so many factors that we are just not privy to, like who had a bad weight cut, who had
with the Garcia fight apparently he had an injury in the boxing match like last night beforehand.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying. So
last thing before we wrap it up, because we're gonna wrap it up here in the next 30 seconds, I just want to put a nugget at the end of this for anyone that does care about betting. This is a mega betting tip. This is ultra sharp, and I'm going to say that it's ultra sharp, and usually you can't even say that for yourself, but I know it is. Check this out. If you look up the odds for NHL games right now, NHL playoff games, to go to overtime, you're usually getting plus 300 or more, right? There's 4 games a night currently. As the percentages run, you're almost guaranteed at least one of those games goes in. So you're going to barely lose your money if you bet all 4 to go into OT. and 1 goes in, you barely lose. If 2 go in, you 1.5 times your money roughly, and if 3 go in, big winnings, right? Now the crazy thing with it is last night, 3 games out of 4 OT. Friday and Thursday, bus. Every other day in the NHL playoffs before that, there's been at least 1 OT game, but only 2 of those days are 1 OT. Every other game has had multiple OTs. This is paying huge right now. Bet NHL games to go to OT in the playoffs.
Betting Nugget. There you go. Yeah, we love talking betting here on the Beefy Boys Breakdown. We love talking UFC here on the Beefy Boys Breakdown. That's what we do. And that we just broke down the prelims of UFC Fight Night, Pavlovich versus Blaydes. And we'll be right back in just a moment with the main card. Check out some other videos on our